Hi and welcome to Box Jam Spring Fling, and I am Zoe at Shiny Kitchen, and today we are going to be making some mini quiches, and we're going to be making them with two different fillings. We're going to be making them with asparagus and bacon, and we're going to be making them with goat cheese and cherry tomatoes. So to start with, we've got quite a lot to do, but please make sure that you have watched the knife safety video in Big Box Central. So first of all, get your cake tin. Now this is just a normal muffin tin, and you need to find a cutter that is slightly bigger than your actual size of your muffin. So because when we put our pastry in, we're going to need it to go to the bottom and up the sides. So you need to find a cutter that is slightly bigger than the size of your tin. So you first of all will need to take your pastry out of the packet and unroll it. And pastry is quite delicate, so you do need to be a little bit gentle when you are unrolling your pastry. So gently, because can be a little bit fragile when you are unrolling that pastry. Okay, now nice and simple. Get your cutter, go as close to the edge as you can, and then cut out a circle of pastry. Now, if you're using a non-stick tin, you don't need to add any additional grease into the tin, but if you are using a tin, then it might stick, or you're a little bit worried about it, then all you need to do is just pop in a little bit of oil, but use oil on a bit of kitchen roll just to grease the bottom of that tin. So we're just going to start off by lining our tins with the pastry. Okay, so just gently cut out carefully as close as you can. You want as many mini quiches from your one piece of pastry as you can get. So try and cut out as many as possible of those circles of pastry and pop them into the cake tin. Okay, so nice and easy. That's the first task. Gently with your pastry, as close as we can to each other, to try and get as many as possible, so we can have as many as possible of our mini quiches. Now be careful, because it might try and stick to the piece of paper, so just gently lift it up, and you can then pop it into your tray. Okay, you can pop it into your tray and just gently push it down. Try not to rip your pastry. You don't want your pastry to rip, otherwise your quiche filling will then not stay inside the casing, and we want it to stay inside there. Okay, so we're just going to cut out all of our circles and pop them into our tray. Okay, so now we've got all of our trays lined. That is the first step to get your trays lined with your pastry. Now, for quiches, we need to do something called blind baking. So what it is we're going to bake the pastry, but we need to bake the pastry and make sure it doesn't puff up and pop out of our cake tins. So the way we do this is we use some kitchen foil and some rice. Now, if you've got some baking beans, you can use baking beans, but I am expecting that not many people have got those, which is completely fine. You don't need them. So what you do is you get yourself a small square of kitchen foil. And then into the middle of that square, you get yourself a small handful of just some normal rice. And you just pinch the corners together to make a little ball. Okay, so pinch it, seal in that rice, and then that rice ball, we try and smooth off the edges, make sure it doesn't tear your pastry. And that goes into the middle of your quiche base. Okay, and we need to do that for all of them. And then once we've done that for all of them, they go into our oven just for about 5 to 10 minutes. And on gas mark number 6, which is 180 if you've got a fan oven. And it's just going to take 5 to 10 minutes just to blind bake those. And you will be able to see what mine look like. And we can compare. And then we get to put our fillings in. But first of all, step 1, blind bake all of your pastry cases. And once your pastry cases have come out of the oven, you will need to remove out the blind bake tin foil packages of your rice. And the pastry cases, you will know if they're ready because they will have a nice little golden tinge on the edges. So just a nice little golden tinge on the edges. And all this makes sure that your pastry is cooked, but it doesn't puff up too much, because as you can see, our pastry has got a lot bigger whilst it's been in the oven. Now, whilst they're cooling down slightly, we are going to be making our toppings. So we're going to be making 2 different fillings for the quiches. And to start with, in a bowl, you will need 3 eggs. Okay, so 3 eggs into a bowl. Aim for no shells. And then season your 3 eggs with just a very small pinch of salt and some black pepper. Okay, black pepper, again, as much as you like or as little as you fancy, but do give it a little bit, it just gives it a nice little flavour. So salt, black pepper, 3 eggs, and using a fork, beat your 3 eggs together. Okay, so beat your 3 eggs together. And then to start with, the first quiche I'm going to be doing is our goat's cheese and cherry tomato quiche. So we need our goat's cheese and we need our cherry tomatoes. Now the way to do this is just get your goat's cheese and crumble your goat's cheese into the egg. So crumble your goat's cheese into the egg, and using your fork again, you can mix it around. So crumble your goat's cheese in and give it a good mix with the fork to get it combined with your egg. Now I'm going to top our goat's cheese and cherry tomato quiches with the cherry tomatoes, so I'm not actually going to be mixing them into the egg. So we've got our nice goat's cheese mixed into our eggs there, and then you can use a spoon or you can use a jug and pour it in. So into 6 of our pastry cases, we're going to use our spoon, and we're just going to pop in a spoonful of that eggy, cheesy mix. Okay, make sure that you do a good scoop and make sure that you've got some of that goat's cheese in there, because we definitely want that flavour to come through. So 1 tablespoon or just under a tablespoon is enough to pop into your cases for this. It does, of course, depend on how big your cake tin is. Don't worry if you spill a little bit of egg. We can always clean that up. That's not a problem. So eggs into the case with your goat cheese in. And then just to finish off, we're just going to pop on a quarter of a cherry tomato. And it is going to sink slightly, but don't worry, that's completely fine. Okay, that is the plan. So it's just going to pop in our cherry tomato on top of our eggs. Now you've got leftover eggs, that's fine. You can make that into an omelette maybe, okay? Or if you don't want to do the asparagus and bacon ones, you can do them all as goat cheese and cherry tomato. So the same again for your asparagus and bacon ones. So you need a bowl, and we need 3 eggs into that bowl as well. And again, we're going to season that with a little pinch of salt and a sprinkle of pepper. And the same for the pepper, as much or as little as you fancy. Okay, but do make sure you add some in, because that way it just gives it a nice flavour. And into there, we're then going to use our fork again, and we're going to beat our 3 eggs together, get them all mixed up. Okay, get our 3 eggs beaten up together. And into there, we're going to add in some chopped bacon. Okay, so this bacon's just been finely chopped up. So chopped up bacon. And then we've got our asparagus. That again has also been finely chopped. So we've got asparagus and we've got bacon, both of which have been finely chopped. And then you can, again, if you have touched the raw bacon, do go wash your hands. Make sure you're washing your hands all the time. And then we're going to give it a good mix. And so that we have got our asparagus and bacon mixed in with the egg. And then using our tablespoon, again, we can use our tablespoons to then fill up our mixtures. So we just use a tablespoon. Make sure you get some asparagus and bacon in that spoonful. We don't want to leave with no fillings. So good spoonful. Make sure that we've got loads of that asparagus and bacon. That's going to give us a really yummy flavour. Okay, fill up our little pastry cases we've made for our quiches. Okay, don't worry if you spill a little bit of egg, we can always clean that up after or before it goes in the oven, either way. Okay, but do be careful if you are doing this whilst your tray is a little bit warm. We don't want anyone with burnt fingers. So, filling up those cases. And you can just flick any little bits that have fallen out into it. And we have got our asparagus and bacon and our goat cheese and tomato quiches. They are ready to go back in the oven, and they're going to take about 10 minutes in the oven. And in a minute, you will see mine, so you can see to know how to check that yours are cooked. So our quiches have been in the oven for 10 to 15 minutes on gas mark 6, which is 180 if you've got a fan. This is only to cook the eggs. So we've got our asparagus and bacon quiche. So that's our nice little asparagus and bacon quiche we've got here. And that will have cooked the bacon as well as the eggs. So that one is all sorted. And then we've got our feta and cherry tomato quiche. So that is nicely cooked, your little tomato in there, and the feta will be melted in to the egg for you as well. Enjoy your quiches.